A sudden, violent shake of the head. Then another. Have you ever felt a creeping, crawling itch so deep, so maddening, that it consumes your entire existence and leaves you utterly powerless? Welcome back to the Bird Survival Code, where we decode the hidden alliances and brutal realities of the natural world. Today, I am taking you deep into the unforgiving heart of the African savannah. That's a place where survival isn't just about escaping the crushing jaws of an apex predator. Sometimes, the most dangerous and brutal enemies are the tiny, silent ones you can barely even see. I want you to look closely at this scene. Standing before us, baking beneath the blistering, relentless glare of the midday sun, is an old, battle-scared warthog. The heat waves shimmer off the dry earth, distorting the horizon, but the agony of this magnificent beast is crystal clear. Can barely stand still for more than a second. His thick, leathery hide, toughened by years of surviving in this harsh wilderness, has been breached. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, of bloated, blood-sucking ticks cover his body. It is a severe, debilitating infestation. The heaviest concentrations of these parasites form a dark, writhing, and gruesome crust around his most sensitive areas, specifically his large, radar-like ears, and his heavily scarred face. Every single nerve ending must be screaming in discomfort. Adding to this absolute torment, thick swarms of flies buzz relentlessly around him. It is a chaotic, maddening black cloud that never leaves his side, constantly drawn by the irresistible scent of warm skin and vulnerable flesh. Listen closely to the ambient sounds of the bush, and you can hear the frantic, rhythmic swish of his thin tail, acting as a useless whip, followed by the heavy, frustrated grunts, escaping his long, tusked snout. He is exhausted, slowly being drained of his vital lifeblood. In an act of sheer, frustrated desperation, the warthog lifts a heavy, cloven-hoofed hind leg, furiously scratching at his thick hide. The sound of his hardened hoof against his tough skin is a hollow, rhythmic thud, echoing in the quiet heat. But the ticks are dug in far too deep. Realizing this tactic is failing, he lumbers over to a nearby acacius tree. Its bark are thick and rough. He leans his immense, muscular weight against the solid trunk, rubbing violently back and forth, hoping the friction will dislodge his tormentors. The dry African wind carries the harsh, scraping sound of coarse bristles, grating against splintered wood. But it is not enough. The itch remains a fiery, inescapable torture. Still desperately seeking any form of relief, the warthog drops heavily to his scarred knees, throwing his massive, barrel-shaped body onto the parched, dusty ground. He thrashes and rolls, kicking up thick clouds of fine, red dirt that choke the hot air, hoping to suffocate or crush the parasites clinging to his face and belly. For a moment, a cloud of dust obscures him entirely, a striking visual testament to his desperate struggle. But as the rust-colored dust slowly settles back onto the cracked earth, the harsh, unforgiving reality of the savannah sets in once again. Nothing has worked. The parasites remain firmly attached, their specialized jaws locked deep into his flesh, blindly gorging on his blood. For a wild warthog, this maddening irritation is an everyday battle, a slow and agonizing drain of energy that can weaken even the strongest animals over time. But out here, in the heart of this beautifully interconnected wild kingdom, the ecosystem possesses a miraculous way of balancing itself. Help is about to arrive, and it comes from an entirely unexpected, aerial source. Cast your eyes upward into the blinding blue expanse of the sky. There is a sudden flash of olive brown and yellow feathers, accompanied by a sharp, rhythmic, chattering call that pierces the heavy, suffocating air. The saviors have arrived. But let me tell you a fascinating secret about the wild. There is rarely pure altruism here. These newly arrived guests, the incredible red-billed oxpeckers, are not here out of kindness. They are not genuinely interested in the warthog himself. They have come for the feast. They are here exclusively for the ticks. Within mere minutes of their arrival, a highly specialized, elite strike team of 6 small birds descends upon the warthog. They land on his broad, bristly back with absolute, pinpoint precision. Their sharp, strongly curved claws are perfectly designed by millions of years of evolution to grip the thick, coarse hair of large mammals with effortless ease, even when the host animal is on the move. Once they land, it is a beautifully synchronized operation to witness. Two of the oxpeckers immediately flutter upward, perching precariously on the very edges of the warthog's large, highly sensitive ears, which are the exact epicenter of the worst tick infestation system. They balance like their skilled acrobats, completely unfazed by the occasional flick of the ear. Meanwhile, the other four members of the flock fan out aggressively. They scurry with spider-like agility over the intricate, scarred terrain of the warthog's face, carefully navigating around his impressive, curved tusks, before moving down his thick neck, across his broad shoulders, and all the way along his spine. I want you to watch very closely as they get to work. It is nothing short of a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering in motion. They move purposefully, targeting one tick at a time. Their bright red, laterally compressed beaks are incredible tools, acting precisely like fine surgical forceps. They slide their beaks sideways through the coarse hair, locking firmly onto the swollen, blood-filled parasites, and plucking them free with an expert twist. They are patient. They are incredibly precise. They are relentless. If you listen closely, past the hum of the flies, you can almost imagine the soft, satisfying snap, as each stubborn tick is forcibly pulled from the raw skin. The old warthog, an animal usually highly skittish, aggressive, and fiercely defensive against any sudden touch, completely surrenders to this delicate process. He stands incredibly still, his eyes half closed in a state of pure, unadulterated relief. The transformation in his demeanor is staggering, replacing frantic anxiety with calm submission. For these 6 little birds, this deeply infested giant is not just a patient. He is a walking, breathing, all-you-can-eat buffet. It is a highly dependable, rich meal of protein in a vast arid landscape, where food can sometimes be incredibly scarce and difficult to secure. For the warthog, it is absolute salvation. It is a profound, life-altering relief from the relentless, blood-draining parasites that he could never, ever reach or remove on his own. What you and I are witnessing right now isn't just a casual interaction. It is a satiric, unbreakable partnership forged over millions of years of brutal evolution. A silent, mutual pact of survival signed in the red dust of the African savannah. As the intense irritation begins to ease, giving the old warthog a fleeting moment of peace, another brutal reality of the environment takes over. The blistering African sun. By early afternoon, the heat becomes absolutely relentless. It beats down like a physical weight, baking the dusty earth until it cracks and shimmers. For a thick-skinned varult-shaped animal lacking sweat glands, this extreme heat is not just uncomfortable. It is potentially lethal. Guided by deep primal instincts, the warthog lumbers forward. He leaves the dry choking dust behind and heads straight for a nearby depression in the landscape. A muddy wallow. He plunges his heavy body into the thick, dark, viscous mud, with a loud, satisfying splash. He rolls violently from side to side. He lets the wet, cooling earth coat his belly, his flanks, and his heavily scarred, tick-bitten face. The mud serves a brilliant dual purpose in this unforgiving wilderness. Instantly, it rapidly cools his overheated skin, lowering his core body temperature and saving him from heat strokes. But perhaps more importantly, as it dries, it forms a tough, impenetrable armor. It physically seals off his raw, bleeding flesh, providing a vital layer of protection against the ceaseless swarms of biting, flying insects that still hover just inches away, desperate for a meal. But what about his tiny feathered companions? The red-billed oxpeckers do not like being submerged in the dark, sticky sludge. As the warthog enjoys his cooling bath, the flock scatters. They fly up and wait nearby. They perch delicately on the low-hanging thorny branches of a whistling thorn acacia tree. They preen their bright feathers, chattering quietly among themselves. But they keep a sharp, unblinking eye on their host. They are incredibly patient birds. This massive, muddy mammal is their meal ticket, their primary source of sustenance in a harsh landscape, and they will not abandon their territory so easily. After several long minutes of absolute cooling bliss, the warthog slowly climbs out of the shallow wallow. Thick ropes of black mud drip heavily from his curved tusks and coarse mane. Almost instantly, the intense heat of the savannah sun begins to bake the wet earth into a hard, gray, cracking crust. The moment his heavy hooves hit dry land, the waiting birds make their move. As soon as he climbs out, they return to work, without missing a single beat. The flock swoops down from the acacia branches and lands right back on his wet, muddy spine. They cling securely to his flanks, their sharp red beaks probing the deep cracks in the drying mud. They expertly seek out any stubborn ticks that somehow survive the suffocation of the mud bath. It is a relentless, highly efficient pursuit of nourishment, yet life on this vast, open savanna is never, ever without danger. Peace is a fragile and temporary illusion. Here, suddenly, a sharp, piercing alarm call shatters the quiet hum of the hot afternoon. It might be the sharp hiss of one of oxpeckers sensing movement, or a warning bark from a distant antelope hidden in the grass. Instantly, the warthog freezes. He abruptly lifts his heavy, mud-caked head. His large ears swivel frantically like radar dishes, trying to pinpoint the source of the invisible threat. Mists all tense, ready to sprint toward his burrow or turn and fight. Through the shimmering heat haze, a menacing silhouette is passing in the distance. A spotted hyena. Its distinct, sloping back, heavily muscled neck, and rounded ears are unmistakable. It lopes forward with a deceptive, seemingly effortless gait. Its powerful, bone-crushing jaws are slightly open as it pants in the extreme heat. The hyena is a formidable apex predator, entirely capable of taking down an adult warthog if given the element of surprise. The warthog tracks its movement perfectly, his breathing shallow and rapid, every sense on high alert. The hyena is not close enough to launch a direct attack right now, but in this deadly, high-stakes game of survival, it is certainly close enough to be intensely noticed. For a few agonizing, breathless moments, the entire landscape seems to hold its collective breath. The hyena, perhaps having already eaten a recent kill, or simply recognizing that this heavily armored warthog is on high alert and would put up a vicious fight, continues its slow trot. It eventually disappears entirely behind a distant ridge of dry, yellow grass. Moments later, the heavy, suffocating tension dissipates from the air. The adrenaline slowly drains away from the warthog's bloodstream, and everything returns to normal. The warthog exhales a long, rough grunt of relief, and the dedicated oxpeckers resume their meticulous, methodical feeding on his back. Time passes slowly, and the brutal heat of the day finally begins to break. As evening falls, painting the vast African sky in breathtaking shades of deep violet, bruised orange, and soft pink, the warthog stands quietly in the cooling air. If you look closely at his scarred hide, he is still covered with some ticks. Eradicating them completely in a single day is an impossible task. But there are far, far fewer than before. The heavy, maddening crust around his sensitive ears is gone. He has survived the torment for another day. The fading signals a critical shift in the ecosystem. One by one, the red-billed oxpeckers take to the air. They call out sharply to one another as they leave for their night roost deep in the tall reeds, seeking vital safety from nocturnal predators like owls and snakes. Left alone in the gathering dusk, the old warthog turns and slowly disappears into the dense, impenetrable shadows of the thorn bushes, backing carefully into his secure underground burrow to sleep. Tomorrow, as soon as the sun rises and the earth ticks will inevitably return to drain his strength. And so too will the birds. It is another day, another brutal yet beautiful partnership, and another endless chapter in the ancient, unyielding rhythm of the African savannah. If you found this deep dive into the intricate life cycles of the wild as fascinating as I did, make sure to subscribe to the Bird Survival Code. Leave a comment below, letting me know which incredible avian survival strategy you want us to decode next. And hit the notification bell so you never miss a journey into the wild. Until next time. Stay curious and keep observing the natural world.